Hello, everybody. I'm Mish from Twisted by Mish.
And hi everyone, I'm Lesley, the Metaphysical Crone from Innerji. And we're here to talk about Miss Mish.
Yeah, we're here to talk today about Lammas or Lughnasadh. So it's the cross-quarter point between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. So yeah, so this is our next video series on all of our Sabbats that we've been doing. So yeah, just continuing on. So Lesley, would you like to say a little bit about some of the traditional
Sure.
things about Lammas or
Yeah,
Lughnasadh?
look, being Scottish, even though I don't have the accent anymore, I was having a discussion earlier with Mish about how I'm drawn to my heritage from the perspective of what the climate and agriculture is like and what the traditional mythology was for the Northern Hemisphere, and trying to apply it here in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's why I like to look at the traditional things first and then see how I can apply them here with our climate, which is not always traditionally 4 equal seasons. So traditionally, Lughnasadh is actually Irish Gaelic, and it was commemoration for the god Lugh, and he was known as a Celtic sun god. And this time of Lughnasadh is about the first harvest, and particularly the first harvest of grains. And it was also a time where you wanted to get all the harvest done, but it was also a time where you started preparing for the colder months, for the winter months, when the frost covered the ground in the Northern Hemisphere and that there was no more harvests from that time. So preserving what you were harvesting was really, really important. And of course, it is one of the major Sabbats. So the other thing about Lughnasadh is it was a time where things like corn dollies were made or wheat dollies were made. Catherine wheels were really popular, and they were crafted as part of the festivities. Baskets were also woven, and the whole idea is that whatever was harvested, not a single seed, not a single leaf was wasted. And in fact, seeds were preserved in readiness for the next planting season. So that's just a little bit.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you, Mish?
I was just going to say another thing traditionally, I think, was that first loaf of bread was baked with the new grains. Like with that first harvest of grains, the first loaf of bread was baked and it was shared, in celebration of that harvest, and also shared to bring luck for the continuing of the harvest and the continuing of the year. For me personally, where traditionally we've got, the putting away for the colder months. Sort of here for me personally, it's about saving those precious herbs that I've got growing that are in abundance at the moment, because we tend to from here on in get some pretty drastic storm weather and a lot of really hot weather as well. So it's about putting those away for later, and using them up as well. So yeah, so that's one thing that I do. I enjoy and appreciate an ice cold beer, knowing that it's crafted from grains. Who doesn't, especially on these hot days? As well as that, some of the other things I do again is baking breads, in thanks, for the harvest and for the grains, and making with those herbs, making like vinegars and oils and things like that as well to preserve, as well as drying them, and some bundles as well for smoke cleansing and things like that. So yeah, it's very much about celebrating this abundance that we have, but also a little bit, like for personally, about preparing for what's going to come and as we are moving on. So yeah, what about you personally, Lesley? What do you like?
For me personally, it's about gratitude, because when we harvest something, we are harvesting the bounty of the work that we have put in from the previous Sabbats. And so for me, as well as a time of sort of celebrating, it's a time for me of looking at gratitude for what I have, and also for acknowledging what I no longer need. You know, having enough, but not hoarding. There's a difference between preparing our preserves or preparing for the cooler months, between that, having enough, and then hoarding so much that it gets wasted. So for me, when I look at it personally, it's like, well, what do I need in the lead up to the winter months here in Australia? What do I need to plan for, prepare for? What within my heart, my mind, and my spirit do I need to look at preserving and keeping? And what do I need to let go of? So my approach is more what's going on metaphysically for me. Although I do love baking bread, I have to say, but it's more about the internal for me than what's going on externally, and having that gratitude of what I've received in my life to date so far, and how I can best utilize it moving forward as well. Yeah. And of course, there's some symbology for here in Australia. There is a wonderful book, if you want to look at the Sabbats from the perspective of Australia in particular, or the Southern Hemisphere. It's called a Wiccan's Walk in Oz, Perspectives from the Southern Hemisphere. It is a really good book. I rely on that a lot when I want to look at Australian symbolism for the traditional Northern Hemisphere Sabbats. You know, for example, some of the correspondences for animals is the brown butterfly, because there are a lot of brown butterflies around at the moment. Kookaburras are around a lot more. Believe me, around my place, they're well and truly around. Things like geckos, black cockatoos, the goanna, ants. So many of our wildlife that are around at this time of year here in Australia, you know, it's particularly something like the kookaburra, which, you know, you don't find in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's about looking at our correspondences here that I find really interesting to learn about as well, because I am more focused, and my history is more about, well, what are the correspondences for, you know, for me, for Scotland, for example. So looking at it from an Australian perspective is like,
whereas great. I've always sort of done mine from like closer in, so, you know, like I always am working with what I physically see in my surroundings. And yeah, so like you said about the geckos, we've actually had olive garden skink, and we've had so many of them, and they find their way inside even. I don't know how they sneak their way inside, but they do. They sort of just come in and have a look, and you know, have to sort of shoo them back out again. So yeah. They're
clever little cookies, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, you know, often when things like that happen, it's nice to look at the symbolism of those animals as well.
And some of the other symbols of Lughnasadh is, regardless of where you live in the world, some of the other common symbols are like harvesting tools. So you're harvesting cutting tools. So if you use a boline to harvest your herbs, and something as simple as gloves, garden gloves can be a representative symbol of this particular Sabbat. It's really quite fascinating. And of course, we didn't mention dates. So of course, the traditional date is the 1st of February here in the Southern Hemisphere, 1st of August in the Northern Hemisphere, if I've got that right, because my memory drives me nuts these days. And of course, the exact date for the Southern Hemisphere, if you go astrologically, I believe is the 4th of February.
Yeah.
And this keeps re-emphasizing, from our point of view anyway, that it's not just one day. It's not just one 24-hour period. It's a flow of energy moving from one to the other.
Yeah, that progression of the seasons. So sort of like as you said, in Australia, like we don't have fall. And even when you're looking at the wheel of the year, you know, it's not even set as 8. Like it really is just that flow on, and you know, each one sort of flows into the next. And
absolutely. So if you find that, I know I used to be like this years ago, I'd go, oh, if I don't do it on the date, I'm not doing it right. No, no. Give yourself a break. Don't be that rigid with it. Go with the flow. Go with what works for you. That's what we always say. I remember my tarot teacher saying in some of his lessons when I was studying tarot quite a while ago, if it works for you, it's right.
Yeah. And well, you know, and that's right. And I've heard too, you know, like this time it's about, you know, where the goddess is sorry, the god is starting to lose his power, you know, and not be so strong anymore. And the goddess is sort of looking at moving forward and from the mother to the crone. So, you know, it is that progression. It's like it is that time where we can look at ourselves and look inside and go, okay, yeah, like you said, getting rid of the things that we don't need so we can move on into this next phase.
Absolutely. So speaking of next phases, yes, we're going to do a setting intentions reading for you. We're going to do it in a combined way, just as we've done in our previous videos. And, you know, the intention around this time, as well as one of gratitude and harvest and bounty, but it's also a time for self-empowerment and also for cleansing as well. Because when you think about it, when we're harvesting, we are actually taking away from the earth what we've planted, clearing it, if you like, so that as you go through winter and get ready for the next planting season, if you're a gardener in particular, then you're preparing the soil. So there is also a kind of cleansing, letting go, clearing component to this Sabbath as well.
Yeah, so those things that just need to be constantly trimmed to encourage new growth as well. It's the same.
So our intention for our reading, what intention can we set? What energy can we bring around what we need to let go of and what we need to be grateful for in our harvest for this Lughnasadh period? Okay, so the first card I have is the King of Cups. So what is it that we want to bring in? We want to bring in emotional centeredness. It's about mastering our emotions. Also looking at our relationships from a centered point of view. And it's like being in the eye of the storm, because if you have a close look, you might not see it clearly on camera, but the water behind him is very, very rough, so much so that a fish is jumping out of the water. So I feel that the energy we want to bring in for Lughnasadh is one of calm and centeredness, because there can be like frenzied activity, trying to harvest, trying to release, trying to, you know, do all the preserves. And it's almost like we've become too busy. And so finding those moments of coming from a place of feeling centered and in control, looking at what it is that we would like to work through, travel through for this Lughnasadh period. And I'm just going to add a tea coin to this. And the tea coin I have is the peacock. So the peacock is about standing up for yourself in a proud way. And this is not like an ego proud, you know, look at me, aren't I wonderful? This is more a proud of owning the good things about yourself, owning the strengths within yourself and putting it out there. This is not about being a shrinking violet. And when we think about gratitude and harvest, I think one of the intentions going through this period is looking at what you've done well, acknowledging that. It's so easy for us all to give ourselves a hard time about what we get wrong, but harvest is about what we've done well, what we've grown well, and what we are ready to have a reward for. So look at what you've done well since the last Sabbath. Look at what has worked for you. Honor it. Have gratitude for it. Give thanks and stay centered in yourself. What do you have,
love that
Mish?
so much. I am going to go with my rune first because it just totally goes with what you've just said. I've got the harvest rune. So
how literal.
Yeah, exactly. So harvest, you know, again, it's that look at all the things that you have learnt, all the things that you know, and it's about, and do celebrate all those things, celebrate the things. The blessings that come in are coming in because of what you have learned and what you have done along the way. So it really is about all of that. And the card I picked is inspiration. I hope that's not flaring too much there. You see that? So inspiration, you know, by doing what inspires us, by doing what really sets our soul on fire, and delving into that to learn more about those sorts of things, that's where you're going to find that bounty. That's where you're going to get that bountiful harvest. I love to use those words. It's the things that do inspire you. And so, yeah, I really love that. All of those lessons that you've already learnt, putting them into practice and moving forward to be able to claim the rewards of all your hard work.
Oh, I love that. And also that inspiration, that is so important, because whilst this is gratitude and harvesting and reward for what we've got, but that also gives us the inspiration, the spark for the next step, doesn't it?
And I so love this, the symbolism on this card. You can see, like, she's got all that burning light from within and just coming out the fingertip. It's like all that burning light that you have in you, don't hold it all in. Let a little bit out. Let your light shine on others and share what you know, because there's someone out there who needs to know what it is.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so gorgeous. I still am in love with that deck.
Yeah.
All right. So now we'll ask what it is that we need to release and let go of for this coming Lughnasadh season. I'd like to use the word season for the Sabbath.
Yes.
You know, rather than just a day.
Definitely isn't just that one day.
All right. So I've got the Four of Cups. So what it is that you need to let go of is only focusing on what you already have and what you already know. This is saying to look for other wider opportunities instead. So you already know what you have. We've got the 3 cups down here that he's looking at. So he already knows, and that's all he's focusing, but he can't see what's going on up here. So I feel that by focusing on what you know and then saying, okay, I've got that. I've learned those lessons. I have harvested and I am grateful for that. Now, what can I let go of to open up new energy, to open up the space to bring in something new, something that maybe perhaps you haven't planned for, that is unexpected, because this is the divine hand of the gods, if you like, offering it to you. But in this card, he's not seeing it because he's still focused on what he's got. So this is saying to me that as we go through this harvest period, we have the gratitude, we accept the rewards, we honor and stand up and show what we've achieved in terms of being seen. But we also don't keep doing it. We acknowledge that, let it go, and then we open up to the next stage. Let's add a few points to that. It kind of follows on from that inspiration card in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. It does.
So the T coin I've got is the bat. Let me bring that closer. And so this is saying that, you know, we acknowledge what we have, what we've received, and we are so grateful and we celebrate that. But then after that, it's time to focus on the next stage, the next evolution, working towards the next Sabbath, which is moving into the autumn equinox. And of course, all equinoxes, regardless of what time of the year it is, are about equality, about balance. So I feel that that's where the journey will lead you as you move on from the Lughnasadh period. What do you have, Mish?
Yeah, so my rune, very fitting, is the scythe. I can't believe I put the harvest rune and the scythe for our Lughnasadh reading.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, the scythe. It's cutting away what you don't need. It's you know, and it's also about sudden change as well. So being aware of sudden change, and letting go that fear that comes with sudden changes. letting go that fear of moving forward, I guess. Like there's quite a lot of things and uncertainties that happen in our lives, and we can quite often just retreat. And I think this rune is really telling us it's, you know, like these changes happen, and it's like it's acknowledge that, yes, deal with that, but know that it's okay and we can move on from there. You don't have to be stuck in that moment. And the card I pulled was confidence. So and I really feel like, because it's letting go of, I really feel like this is about not being too cocky and confident in yourself, because there is always that element of unknown. And so, yeah, with the rune together, it really feels like to me that there's that real element of unknown, and not to be so fearful of it, but don't be so cocky and thinking that this is how it's going to be. Have that reminder that you've got things to change, and things will change, and that's perfectly okay, and it's probably going to lead us to better places.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do one more card from this is my Celtic deck, Celtic Spiral, I think. I'm having a blank with names today. So let's see what we've got. And we've got Gwyneth. I'll bring that in. And the words are the mother, nurture, and present. So it's interesting because we spoke about the mythology of Lu, the Celtic sun god, and he's coming into his time of weakening, allowing the goddess to come up in her energy, in her power. And there we have this card that says the mother, nurture, and present. And so when we're looking at the goddess energy coming in and becoming more empowered, it's not about force. It's about strength in oneself, strength in the feminine, the more passive receptive aspects. It's like a gentle strength as opposed to a warrior forceful strength. And so I feel that this card is kind of like a midway point between the god, the Celtic sun god Lu, starting to weaken, and the energy of the goddess energy starting to move up and strengthen. So you will kind of feel a bit of a push-pull between these two energies. You know, sometimes you might feel, I just don't feel strong enough to do it today. And then another day it will be like, oh no, I'm quietly getting there. So really think about the energies involved. When we look at mythology, yes, we have our gods and goddesses, but we're also looking at the energies they represent as well. And I think that might be helpful moving through.
And I've chosen another card from the same spellcasting oracle deck. And I've got financial health. So I feel like all these changes and the shifts that are going, and by following what is best for you, it really is going to help with your financial health, and not just monetary. You know, it's about your place and your being and all of that as well in yourself. So yeah, I might just pull a rune as well.
Go on, go for it.
That one. I just know there's more. Yeah, crossroads. There's going to be decisions. There's going to be decisions. So keeping in mind that with that push-pull that you're going to be feeling, you know, just really try and look at things from a different perspective. And I think that's really going to be for your highest good. I feel like there are a lot of opportunities coming at the moment. And if we don't really work out on our own personal strengths and focus on those, then that's where you're going to lead into trouble. I think that it's just a real reminder of working on your own personal strengths, and letting go of those things that change suddenly in front of you and don't always go as expected. Pull in on yourself and use your strengths for moving forward, and that's where you'll get your greatest bounty.
And it is understanding that strength doesn't come from the ego. A lot of people think if you're being strong about something, you know, that you're a little bit on the egotistical side. No, this is about standing in your own power. That first King of Cups card, it's about being emotionally strong, emotionally centered. You know, it's about standing up for who you are. But as you said, Mish, not being overly cocky about it, overly confident about it at the same time. It's being true to yourself, I think. Yeah.
True to yourself, but still being accepting of change.
Yeah. So we hope this reading has been of help. Now, obviously, this is the first in our series for Lughnasadh. So, Mish, what else will you be doing as part of our video series?
Well, I have got, again, a little wirecraft project. So we're going to make a little wheat sculpture for our altar. So I've just put a couple together. Can you see?
Oh, gorgeous.
Going to blend in with the background a little bit. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah.
So just some wheat, little wheat wire wraps.
That would make an awesome brooch.
You could make a little bundle of them and put them in a little vase, or or you could even, you know, make some little earrings. But yeah, with just a little wire craft there. I'm also going to use some of my herbs that I harvest this time of year and make up some smoke cleansing bundles. So I'll talk a little bit about the herbs that I have, and I'm just using the herbs that grow in my garden. So I'll talk a little bit about them, metaphysically what they do, and yeah, just how I wrap them up and how I use them, as well as I will have some crystals that I will share, that I will choose for this season, to be twisted using this energy at the time of Lughnasadh and Lammas. So I'll have those to share, and yeah, I think, and I'll probably reshare my bread recipe. I'll do a few little, might do a little share of those, and just so you can, in case you want to make that again. Share that.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Bread is something, baking is something I always do for each of them, and so yeah, using the produce that grows locally and seasonally, like, so stuff that's in abundance at the moment. So
that sounds amazing.
What have you got coming?
Well, of course, I can't go through another Sabbat without doing an essential oil blend for it. So I will be doing a video where I will create an essential oil blend. You'll have the recipe. I'll show you how to make it so that you can make one for yourself. I'll also be doing a crystal grid this time. And the crystals I've chosen as my main ones for the crystal grid are citrine, because citrine is all about abundance and also that sun energy. And so I'll be using this is a raw polished citrine crystal sphere. And I'll also be using, this is a raw citrine point.
That is a beautiful point.
You don't see the raw ones very, very often, like natural raw ones, as opposed to the heat treated ones. So I'll be using those as part of the crystal grid as well. And also I'll be doing a meditation again. For those of you who like to have some quiet time during each of the Sabbats, I'll be doing a guided meditation for Lughnasadh as well. And if time permits, I'm thinking of doing something a little bit different astrologically. Rather than looking to see where the moon is around that time, I thought I might take a look at where the planets will be on the day of the 1st of February for Lughnasadh, and see what the influences that might be that can assist us to celebrate and move forward with the harvest. So we'll see how all that goes.
I love that. That'll be awesome.
So we hope you have enjoyed this. We look forward to seeing you and seeing your comments. Please always feel free to put comments on what you're doing for Lughnasadh, any questions you might have. We don't guarantee that we have all the answers, because a lot of it is what works for us. But, you know, if you have any questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you. And until next time, many bountiful blessings for Lughnasadh.
Yes, bountiful blessings, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.